In this video, I will demonstrate the different ways you can sync a vendor record in QuickBooks with a company record in your Procore Company directory. The integration between Procore and QuickBooks, as it relates to companies and vendors, works bidirectionally. This means that vendor records that have been created in QuickBooks can be used to create new or link to existing records in the Procore Company directory. And it also means that information entered for companies created in the Procore Company directory can be used to create new vendor records in QuickBooks. This is important because vendors must be synced between Procore and QuickBooks before commitments assigned to that company in Procore can be exported to QuickBooks. In this video, I will show you how this works in both directions. Here I am in QuickBooks, and I'm going to open the Vendor Center. I have 3 vendors that were just created here in QuickBooks that we will use as examples in this video. Let's go into Procore so I can show you how to link these vendor records to company records in the Procore directory. Now here I am in Procore on the Portfolio tab at the company level. To add these new QuickBooks vendors into Procore, I need to be logged into Procore as a user with admin level access to the ERP Integrations tab and with the ability to import vendor information from accounting. In this case, I am logged in as a user with these rights, so I will need to navigate to the ERP Integrations tab. And then I will select the Vendors subtab. When the Vendors subtab is accessed, the Ready to Import filter is displayed by default, and on it, you will see any vendors from QuickBooks that have not yet been synced with a company in the Procore directory. For each vendor listed, there are 3 options. The vendor can be linked to an existing Procore company, a new Procore company record can be created for this vendor, or the vendor can be archived. Let's look at each of these options in a bit more detail. The first option you will see for each vendor listed here is to link them to an existing company. This option is used to link a vendor in QuickBooks to a company that already exists in the Procore directory. For example, maybe someone else has already added the information for this company into Procore, and rather than creating a new record in Procore, we just want to link it to the one that is already there. In that case, you can click Link to Existing Company. The system will query the Procore Company directory, and if it finds a company with the same exact name as the vendor in QuickBooks, it will pre-fill the name here. If it doesn't find an exact match, you can search for the company in Procore by entering the name here. In this case, the company name was entered in the Procore directory with the CO abbreviation at the end of the name, but that part was left off the name entered in QuickBooks, so it wasn't able to find the company for us as the names are not an exact match. However, we can still link them together, if it is in fact the same company, by selecting the name in the list. And now I just need to click the Link button, and it will sync the QuickBooks vendor with the company in Procore. So that is the option to use if the company exists in both Procore and QuickBooks. But if it is a new vendor that does not exist in Procore at all, you can create a new company and sync it to the vendor in QuickBooks in a single click using the Add to Procore button. Let's use the next vendor here as an example. Like the last one, this is a vendor that was created in QuickBooks, but in this case, there's not a company for it in Procore yet. You can see, if I click Link to Existing Company, nothing pre-fills, and even if I start to spell their name, there are not any matches. So in this case, we just need to create a new company record. To do that, I'll simply click the Add to Procore button. And just like that, a company has been created in the Procore directory and it is synced up with the vendor in QuickBooks. The last option we have here is to archive the vendor. You should use this option if the vendor that is appearing is not one that you will want to use on commitments in Procore. For example, maybe it is a vendor you are no longer doing business with. Rather than leaving them here on the Ready to Import filter forever, go ahead and archive them. Archiving is your way of telling Procore to ignore this vendor. It does not have any impact on the vendor information in QuickBooks. It simply moves it from the Ready to Import filter and places it under the Archive filter. If you have archived a vendor by mistake, you can go to the Archive filter and click Unarchive. This moves the vendor back to the Ready to Import filter, and now you can use the option to link to an existing company or add to Procore just like before. So that covers the options you have to sync up QuickBooks vendor records with Procore company records. But as I mentioned earlier in the lesson, this works bidirectionally. So now let's go through the process of using companies created in the Procore directory to create new vendor records in QuickBooks. To start, I will open the Procore directory tool, and I will click the Add Company button. I need to enter the information for the company I am creating. And now I will click Create to add the company into the Procore directory. The company has been added into the Procore Company directory, but it is not yet synced with the vendor record in QuickBooks. If this new company information should be used to create a new vendor in QuickBooks, click the Send to ERP button in the top right corner. This makes the information available to be exported to QuickBooks on the ERP Integrations tab. Anyone with the ability to create new companies in Procore can send a company to ERP, which again makes it available to be exported to QuickBooks. But the export itself can only be performed by someone at your company who has been designated as an accounting approver. In this case, I am logged in as a user with accounting approver access. So I will go to ERP Integrations, and I'll access the Vendors subtab. And this time, we will go to the Ready to Export filter. On the Ready to Export filter, we see a list of the Procore companies that have been sent to ERP, but have not yet been exported to QuickBooks. As the accounting approver, for each company listed here, I have the ability to either reject or accept and export it to QuickBooks. If this is a duplicate vendor that already exists in QuickBooks, or if some of the information for the company is missing or inaccurate, you can choose to reject this company. When I select Reject, a comments area appears. In the comments, I can indicate why I am rejecting the entry. The person who clicked the Send to ERP button previously will receive an email letting them know that their company was rejected, and any comments that have been entered will be included. So it is a good idea to make sure and include the reasoning here so the person who sent it knows why it was rejected and what they need to do before sending it back again. On the other hand, if this is not a duplicate and the information is accurate, you can select the Accept button. You have the option to assign a vendor type in the list if you're tracking vendor types in QuickBooks. And now all I have to do is click the Export button. The export is now being performed. While it is exporting, you will see this message, and it will update when it is completed to let you know it was successful. Now that it has been successfully exported, the vendor will appear in QuickBooks, and in Procore, the vendor will now move from the Ready to Export filter to the Synced filter. Here I am now back in QuickBooks, and I can see the company that was just exported in the list of vendors in the Vendor Center. And I can even see all of the information that was recorded for the company in Procore by opening the vendor and viewing the address info, and even the vendor type that was selected on the Additional Info tab. Back in Procore, I can easily tell which of the companies in Procore are synced with vendor records in QuickBooks by opening the directory. Each company listed here that is displayed with the green ERP linked banner is synced with a vendor record in QuickBooks. And those that do not have the banner are not currently linked with a vendor in QuickBooks. Thanks for watching.